All right. Let's try this again. Um, I have no idea if this is going to work. Um, I guess I'll wait to see if Morgan comes back. Um, but I know I'm live streaming. Let me just make sure that I have wow, technical difficulties. What can you do? Once I get folks back in again, what are you gonna do? This is such is the life of trying to go live. I think YouTube had other plans for my stream today. So let's see. Edit. Just gonna at least update the link on the Fedora Lounge and see if I can hopefully get some folks back on here. I know I had Morgan on here. I have no idea who else was on here. Okay. All right. So now what I also want to do is at least try to get some of my this is not the way I wanted to start off my live stream, but I guess this is just how it goes. Let's see if anybody tried to apologies to anybody that's tried to let's see. So I'm going to do this. Okay. I'd much rather spend my time speaking in front of you guys, but you know, again, looks like technology had other plans for me today. Let's see. Boop, and boop. And let me at least get hats and guitars under like updated, because it's a pretty big choral audience. Like everything, kind of how it always is when you are in a hurry to do something. Let's see. So there, and then let's see. So if you're on here now, I'm just trying to update. All right. I think at least I got yeah, it still does nothing for my my chat. So apparently YouTube is having problems with chat when it comes to live streaming, but I am able to access the chat window. Let's let's see. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, and I'm hoping to slowly but surely work through these technical difficulties to be able to kind of do this reliably. Again, if you had seen some of the if you had seen some of the if you had seen some of the other live stream. Okay, I got a visitor. Let's see if the chat works. I don't know if that's Morgan again. Morgan, is that you? Let me know if I'm coming through on audio here. Because man, that was a heck of a way to start that live stream. I did not want to have technical difficulties, but or if whoever's watching is like, are you able to hear me? Um, I'm just trying to. I had three people on, which I don't think I've ever had three people on. But if you are on here and you can post a comment, please do. Like apparently that little thing that we had that issue with the chat window is still happening. So I'm still getting the little something went wrong monkey with the hammer in the hat. At least he's in the hat. Yeah, it's a nice purple monkey with a red hat and a red hammer, apparently. So, according to my little readout here, it looks like audio is working. I just want to make sure that that's actually accurate. So if you are watching this, I think we have one viewer right now. I'm just gonna take after all that, like I'm 7 minutes into this new stream, and I'm just gonna celebrate with a chug of coffee and just assume that I'm coming through loud and clear. I have no idea, but all I know is that if you join me on my previous stream at 11 a.m. Just to get you up to speed, I had something wrong, like something still technically wrong, because let me actually just post a can you hear me? Can you hear me now? All right, can you hear me now? All right, I'm just gonna post can you hear me now? Basically just to see if my audio is coming through again, just to get you up to speed. At my first stream, the audio decided to crap out. The chat was not working, so like I couldn't chat on my thing. I had to go on my phone to chat. But basically, again, I'm assuming that my audio now works, but I'm still not able to chat directly. I have to go through my phone. I just want to just get confirmation before I go into the show today. But yeah, technology, right? It works great until it doesn't. It's fantastic as long as it's working. But again, I don't fashion myself as a huge tech nerd. I am kind of maybe a junior tech nerd. But we'll see if at least we can get confirmation that this stuff is actually on and you can audibly hear me. Um, yeah. So let's see. Okay, it's because I'm not getting any commentary, and I don't know if that's because you're typing comments and they're not coming through, or you're just not typing the comments. I just want to. I just speaking into the wind here. You know, it is just about 11:25 Eastern Standard Time, and I'm okay. I think I have enough caffeination to get a full show in today. If I'm able to edit this out, that's fine. I just feel like it's going to be something that we're not going to want to see. But it wasn't my favorite. I think yesterday's live stream and the one before that went off without a hitch, and I was kind of like, maybe I celebrated prematurely. But I just want to make sure that I am actually going through live and clear. Again, I think I know where I went wrong. It is just one of those things where, it's a learning curve, right? You go through these things and then you kind of just see what you learn as you go along. I guess let's just put it that way. I'm sure, like, I hold myself to a much bit better standard, but I think, I think as I get a lot more of these hat chats under my belt, I think we'll get to the point where we'll have a lot more reliability. Anyhow, again, just seeing if we can get. I got another viewer. If you can hear me, just say yes on the chat. That way, I can kind of get the show underway, and that way we're like, it'll probably be a good solid for those folks that tune in afterwards. I updated the link on hats and guitars. I think I updated the link on people who love hats. And I also updated the link on the Fedora Lounge. I just want to make sure that this little thing is not tricking me into thinking that I am audible and I'm actually not. So again, for the umpteenth time, I apologize. But if you're listening to this and you're able to drop a comment, just give me like a yes or a thumbs up or some kind of indication that you can hear me. That way I can kind of just stop being paranoid about it. But yeah, I had 3 people on. I think that was like the first time I ever had 3 people on my live stream. And you know what? I think I'm going to let's see. What am I gonna do? I just want to make sure I get confirmation. I got 2 people on. Somebody drop a comment and just say, "Hey, I can hear you, jerk." He's like, "You're coming on." Yeah, it's just like, just get on with the show already. Again, I will, while I wait for that comment or a comment, I will just sip some coffee here and stay caffeinated to get the actual show underway. Um, you know, yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. All I know is that I started the stream like I usually do. It gave me options, like more options in terms of my audio than I usually get. And I guess I chose the wrong option. I know I deliberately chose something else, but I figured, okay, maybe let's try this and it probably won't be as bad as it was. Just hubris. I'm gonna chalk it up to tech hubris. But if you're listening to this, if you're listening to this, how do you like the pork pie? This is, I think, the first time I only have 2 pork pies in my collection. This is by far my favorite. What do you think of the pork pie hat? I think it's the pork pie I mentioned uh, earlier when I was obviously not talking to anybody. Is kind of a redheaded stepchild, I think, in like the fine hat community. But I want to go into that, but I want to make sure I'm audible before I go into that. Let's see. One second. Let me just mute myself real. All right. So I went. I got some internal help to see if I can verify that my stream is actually going live. So I'll receive a text here shortly if I actually have a stream going on. That I know I'm live. That's good. So you're getting audio, but what I don't know is whether you find folks can hear me now. So yeah, I guess until I receive that text, that I'm live, that I'm audible. Let's see. let's see here. All right. Um, 1 second. I'm gonna check. All right, so I am gonna continue on the show, the hat chat, uh, and we'll see if Good Luke's has figured out, how to stream. Again, technical difficulties today. Uh, I don't know what all happened. Basically, I'm just trying to figure out my life here today. Um, it started off promising. I had lots of energy. I think I still have enough energy for a full show. But like I said, I think this is um, just comes with the territory. All right, so we're approaching. I should have an incoming text here. Let's see. Um, 1 second here. All right. We'll see if I can get confirmation of audio. Let's see if we can at least confirm that we have audio here, and then get this underway. All right. Looks like I got confirmation of audio. All right. Yep. I had 2 viewers. The viewers are gone. I can't blame them for leaving the stream. But we will just keep moving forward anyway. All right. Let's just, while we have nobody else here on the thing, we have one person, but I think that I know who that person is. And then we'll just keep going. Let's see if I can just update the links, the invites. Okay, so we have, let's see if I can update the audio on some of these groups, at least update the links. That way, at least folks that didn't go through the morass that we just went through here will be willing to entertain rejoining us. I don't really know what happened. I honestly, at this point, doesn't matter what happened, but all I know is that I wasn't getting any audio, and well, like I said, I had 3 people. That's a little upsetting. Let's see. Okay. So, okay. All right. Okay. Well, now that we are back, I guess what I'll do is I'll actually get started with the show. And honestly, it was like a little anticlimactic, to be honest. I went and had really good intentions for but hey, we got a viewer. I'm gonna just assume, hey, we got a second viewer. Hey, welcome. I just had like the worst technical difficulty. Good morning, depending on where you're at. It's morning here on the East Coast. But again, I had to start a new stream. Anyway, let's just get right on the way. Today's hat of the day is the hey, we got Morgan. Hey, Morgan. Hey. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have no idea. YouTube has been punking me. Apparently YouTube got a wind of my false sense of tech security and decided that it's just going to tell me how little I know about its platform. I don't know why you weren't able, Morgan, to get that second notification. I went to, yeah, good morning. Thank you. I went to Hats and Guitars and a couple other ones real quick to update the link. And then I went to Fedora Lounge to update the link. I can't blame for it. I had 3 people on here at the same time, which is like more than I've ever had. But such is life, right? It's like, so at some point I'll probably take down the original stream, and this one will be the one that is the permanent one. Anyhow, just to kind of get started, I feel like I just gone through like a whole like saga here. But yeah, good morning everybody. Sorry about the because this is the first pork pie hat that I actually showed here. Yeah, YouTube is and has been crazy. Yeah, I'll tell you. I don't know if you heard any of that, but I was describing what was on my screen. I still see it. So since I started the stream, where I usually see the chat window, Morgan, I usually see it right here. It says, it'll tell me, who's sending a chat, and I'm able to actually type directly and interact with the audience. But right now, I'm not even seeing that. I'm seeing like a purple monkey with a red hat. At least the monkey has a hat on. It's got a red hammer, and it says something went wrong. So I don't know. I didn't do anything different, at least with respect to this. I think I know why my audio was screwed up. It's fixed now. I'm over it, or at least maybe. But yeah, apologize. Again, that's all I can do. Anyway, today's hat of the day is yes, that's YouTube's error image. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but whatever, we'll deal with it. It's working on my phone. So whatever's happening on YouTube on the browser is not happening on the phone. So I'm able to chat regularly on my phone. It's going to be a little bit more cumbersome, but that's okay. I'll deal with it. I mean, as long as you can hear me, I think I'm going to be okay. Anyhow, today's hat of the day is my Dobbs Porkpie hat. I love this hat, and I'm going to say, I'll repeat myself if anybody was able to hear, but I'm going to repeat myself. I'm no stranger to doing that anyway. But, this is like one of those, I'm going to use the term knockaround hat. One of my knockaround hats, I talked about like the Knox Tom and Jerry that I wore that I got from Kevin Gerber. That's my main knockaround hat. And by knockaround hat, I just mean it's one of those hats that you wear that like are no-brainer hats. They're like, I don't know what hat I'm gonna wear. I'm just gonna throw this one on because, well, one, I love the hat. And 2, if I don't know what the weather's gonna be like and somehow it rains on me, I'm not gonna like cry a river, no pun intended, if this hat gets a little wet. But what I wanted to talk about, there's a lot of things I want to talk about in terms of like the pork pie hat in general. And it's maybe just my perception, but I think based on what I've gathered, I feel like the perception kind of holds. The pork pie hat is kind of like one of those hats that are like on the fringes of like the fine hat community, right? So like I'm turning fine hat. I write maybe just felt hat community. It's kind of like, I feel like it kind of in a way occupies the same space, kind of like the Panama hat. and kind of like the straw hat in general, uh, it's kind of just has one of those things where like there's a lot of people that are not fans of the pork pie hat, and that's sad. I don't know. For me, because I do love the hat, I think it's a little sad. Let's talk about a little bit why that is, right? I think, okay, we know that the pork pie hat has British origins, right? There's some sort of British connection because, well, the Brits came up with like the food that this hat was named after, right? Whether you know it or not, the British pork pie is kind of like a British meat pastry, right? And it has like a dome. It has a domed top. I don't know if I've ever actually had a pork pie. It sounds like something I would like. But anyway, it has that top that the pork pie hat kind of borrowed its name from. And this hat style, I think, goes way back into the 1800s. So I think a lot of people think this is like a new style. But as far as I'm able to tell, the pork pie hat has origins way back into like the 1800s, maybe the mid to late 1800s. So it's not a modern style. One thing that is, I think, kind of agreed upon is that this is a less formal hat style, right? You probably never seen a president wearing a pork pie hat. Let me just tell you that. Right? So any of the U.S. presidents, and if I'm wrong about that, please tell me. Like, if I would really love if somebody could show me a photo of, I don't know. I'm going. I'm probably going a little crazy here. But if you show me a photo of Harry Truman or FDR wearing a pork pie hat, I'm gonna be like, I'm saving that photo, right? I'm gonna save that photo because I'm like, I don't think that photo exists. If it does exist, it's because somebody photoshopped it, which is still pretty cool to me. I'll still save it. But yeah, it's because the pork pie hat, and I don't know if it's since its inception, and certainly in modern day, the pork pie hat is known as kind of a less formal hat, right? And one thing I want to do, let's see if I could do this. This shows you a little bit of how like ballsy I am today. I am going to try to share my screen here with you guys. That way I can kind of show you some like famous pork pie hats. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna be okay. Let's see if I can do this and not I'm gonna see if I could do this without like causing a catastrophe. So you guys know already, Morgan, if that's you still on the screen, I'm gonna try to do this and not blow everything up. Let's find out if this is gonna work. So I'm going. Okay, Morgan, are you able to see? I don't know if Morgan, if that's you on the screen, are you able to see my screen? Like, are you able to kind of hopefully you can see somebody on screen. It's a picture. Ooh, a whole picture. Yeah, fancy, right? Um, Whoever's on stream, I just want to make sure. I don't know if it's Morgan still or whatnot, but yeah, I just want to make sure that it's coming through live. That you're on my screen, that you can see. This is a photo of Buster Keaton. The nice thing is that you get to see somebody other than my ugly mug on this screen. Hopefully, if it's showing the way I think it's going to show. We'll see here. I'll just wait to make sure either Morgan or whoever happens to be on stream still, if you can see Buster Keaton here on screen. It looks like it's showing. I don't know. I'm no expert, but let's see if it actually, if I can do anything here with let's see. Okay. I feel like it is showing. Okay, yeah, yeah, it is showing. Okay, we have what I want to go at, right? I talked about like famous. Well, I talked about like the kind of a little bit of the history of the pork pie hat, um, and I just wanted to kind of talk about why, right? Why the pork pie hat kind of means something to me and probably a lot others, but um, it's because there's been a lot of famous people. Um, at least maybe not a lot. Maybe I'm exaggerating when I'm saying a lot of people, but there have been famous wearers of the pork pie style hat, and the first person I thought of um, was Buster Keaton. You know, and Buster Keaton was a one of the big physical comedy stars of the silent film generation, right? Um, and again, I don't fashion myself an expert on, well, basically anything, let alone pork pie hats and film, especially from the silent era. But Buster Keaton was one of those iconic wearers of the pork pie hat that it just immediately took. You know, I'm like, okay, when I think of the pork pie hat, Buster Keaton's one of those folks that I think is really well known and kind of screams pork pie. Now, obviously, his pork pie is a heck of a lot different than my pork pie hat, and I think there's a very good reason, right? The reason behind his pork pie hat is because, well, one, it didn't start off as a pork pie hat, right? Buster Keaton was famous for this hat because he took a regular felt hat, kind of combination of materials to squash it and shape the hat into what this pork pie, his iconic pork pie hat. And I think there was a couple other folks that did the very same thing. So it goes to show you, like my pork pie hat, my Dobbs pork pie hat. Let me just go in and show you my Dobbs hat. So again, I'm going to try to do this and not cause a catastrophe. But this is my Dobbs pork pie hat, and you can see that there's a little bit more length in the crown here, as opposed to like Buster Keaton's pork pie. They're still pork pie hats, right? So the reason they're pork pie hats is because of this pork pie looking dome, this crown on the hat, right? And then I'll show you just the inside here. I don't I don't remember what the date of the of this particular hat, given that it has the plastic sleeve lining there, which actually comes in really useful. Besides, I don't use product in my hair, but I do sweat a lot, and I feel like this plastic really comes in useful for protecting the hat lining from everything, from sweat, from product. If you use product in your hair, I used to use product in my hair. Used to always wear kind of a, what was it? Geez, now I'm like not recalling. There's a term, and I'll refer to it when I get it. It's not hair gel. Anyway, that's no longer, because not that I never brush my hair. I actually do, just but the hats really do a good job of concealing my hat hair, and my bed hair. I guess when I get up and I go out for my walk, I do that. I usually start this stream right after I come back from my walk, so that's why my hair is always a wreck. So pardon me, but that just reminds me to put my hat back on. Anyhow, the pork pie hat. So Buster Keaton, really famous wearer of the pork pie hat, but it doesn't end there. I actually have some other examples of why like this hat called on me, and it probably is kind of similar to why it calls upon some of my fellow pork pie hat collectors. Sometimes what happens is that cinema, right? So like life imitates art and art imitates life. It's kind of a reciprocal nature. And sometimes we love hats because we know that somebody famous wore it and made it famous, right? It was iconic. Here we go. It's another iconic pork pie hat. This is Lester Young. Lester Young was a jazz musician, I believe. Oh man, I'm probably butchering this. I don't. I think it was the 40s to 50s. But if you know Lester Young's music better than I do in his heyday, but he was a prominent jazz musician and kind of made the pork pie famous. It was kind of like one of his signature hats. And kind of like Buster Keaton, his pork pie hats did not start off as a pork pie. Actually, I think it probably makes sense as to why Buster Keaton and Lester Young rocked a pork pie that didn't start off as a pork pie. And again, I don't know this as fact, but you guys can fact check me, and you guys that know better, that are watching this, that know better, that can fact check me. The era of the high crown hat, right? So what we know, and why a lot of folks don't like more modern vintage hats, is because the crown, the style of hat wear started gravitating towards lower crowns, right? We talked about the rise of the automobile. I don't think that was an accident, right? Lower crown hats started becoming en vogue because it was a way for the hat industry to adapt to the rise of the automobile, right? Just exactly what led to the demise of hat wear also led to the evolution. Before the demise, you had the evolution of hat wear and hat style, where, okay, when people are getting in and out of a car, of an automobile, that high hat crown, you see those like 5-inch, 6-inch sometimes hat crowns that people love, right? They love that style. Morgan, I don't know if you're still with us here, but Morgan has at least one or two or several KTG hats by our Kevin Gerber, and I believe it's his nostalgia hat that has the really high classic high crown that you can actually mold and bash to your own liking, or maybe I think you can actually steam them into your shape, or I think you can actually even dry bash them into the shape that you like. But just kind of getting off on a tangent here, but I think Lester and Buster Keaton. So Lester Young and Buster Keaton came from that era where hats had that really high crown. And I think the gentleman that's like directly to left of of Lester Young here has a Panama hat on. It looks like a Panama hat to me. At least the colors, the black and white photo, kind of looks like a Panama hat to me. But Lester Young is definitely rocking a pork pie hat. It was one that he created by molding the hat to the shape that he'd like it. But this is an iconic, one of the other iconic pork pie hat wearers that you might encounter in history. So we talked about Buster Keaton. We talked about Lester Young, the famous jazz musician. Let's move on and talk about more iconic, and I can tell where I'm going with this. Popeye Doyle, Gene as Popeye Doyle, the French Connection. So some of my movie buffs, you kind of might remember this movie from I want to say mid to late 70s, The French Connection. Great movie, great cops and robbers type movie. Popeye Doyle played a police officer. I believe in New York City area. But great movie. I haven't seen it in quite a bit, but honestly, I got to tell you that this is one of, like, even before Buster Keaton and even before Lester Young, Popeye Doyle is one of those iconic pork pie hat wearers. Now, again, for some of my fellow movie hat buffs out there that really know the French Connection and know all the hat history behind the French Connection, I believe when I watched this, I paused. There's like a scene, I believe, in a bar area in this movie where either Popeye Doyle's takes off the hat, or just it falls off, and he's carrying the hat, right? And I think you can still the photo, and you can see the underneath of the hat. And I believe that when you pause that scene, you can see that it's a Dobbs hat, and I think um, it has. It definitely seems to have kind of like the that little bow in the back. And again, it's not. It doesn't look exactly like this. I believe it was a black one. It might be brown. It just depends on the lighting. But I believe it has that bow, and I believe it's a Dobbs. It's a Dobbs pork pie. And what's interesting and different about that, and this is something and I don't know why it's different, but it's definitely not like my pork pie. If you look at some of the still shots, you might even be able to see it on this shot. Um, you can tell it has a point, right? So it's kind of a teardrop pork pie. Um, and I don't know why. I mean, I've never seen another um, uh, in my recollection, I haven't seen too many of the teardrop shaped pork pie hats, but Popeye Doyle is definitely different in that respect. In that you can see that his pork pie is round in the back, and it comes to a point, and I think it looks really sharp. And it started begging the question: is that did Popeye's hat? I'm going to call it a Dobbs pork pie. Did Popeye's Dobbs pork pie hat come that way, or did he somehow shape it into having that point? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't know if Gene Hackman ever spoke about the hat and why the character wears the pork pie hat. It's just iconic. It's something definitely that comes to mind when one thinks about the a little bit more modern. So we're talking about the mid to late '70s for the French Connection. But yeah, Gene Hackman is iconic with this, and I'm going to show you probably another still from the French Connection. And you can see here, it's kind of like, wow, this hat, he kills it with this hat. So here you can very much tell if it's the same hat, it's a brown pork pie hat. And you can probably see maybe this photo shows off the point in the hat a lot better. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to think. I'm like, maybe if I wanted to, I could probably shape my pork pie into looking like Popeye Doyle's. I just haven't tried it. I'm just pleased as punch. Maybe one day I'll get I'll get a hankering for doing this. But this right here, like when I'm looking at photos that really show off the hat, this is one that kind of jumped out at me. And again, I have no idea if folks that are, sometimes I just assume that fine hat collectors are like me, and that we're really big fans of movies and movie hats. But yeah, this is definitely one of those famous hat movies. And it's not because the movie is about the hat, it's just that the character is iconically linked to the pork pie hat. And Popeye Doyle. Now, one thing that folks may or may not know is that there was a sequel to The French Connection. So there was a French Connection too, except that Gene Hackman did not play Popeye Doyle. So I'll actually go to another still, and hopefully I get the right still. Hey, we got here I'm gonna say it's a still from the movie. I don't really recall. Honestly, I don't even know if I've seen the French Connection too, but it's one that I probably should go and try to see. But if you guys recognize this actor, like I recognize him, he was one of my favorite actors. He's still alive today. So Gene Hackman has passed, sadly, but this is Ed O'Neill. Anybody know Ed O'Neill? If you're watching this, Ed O'Neill is probably most famous from his hit TV series called Married with Children. He played Al Bundy. So yeah, Ed O'Neill is one. He's a very likable guy. I've seen so many interviews with Ed O'Neill, and Ed O'Neill reprised the role of Popeye Doyle in the sequel, and I don't know why Gene Hackman didn't do this, the French Connection 2. It could have been, actors have a whole host of reasons for not doing sequels. Gene Hackman's very much a guy that, an artist. He fashions himself a real artist. When he was going, it could have been a whole host of reasons, right? Maybe Gene Hackman felt that that's no pun intended. Maybe Gene Hackman felt that it wasn't worthy. Like doing the sequel to French Connection wasn't worthy enough. Maybe the script wasn't strong enough, and it could have also been that he wanted to do the French Connection too, and it just didn't work out because his schedule wouldn't allow it. Right? We know that happens quite a bit, where the studio really wants to do the sequel, but for some reason the cast, they're not able to bring the entire cast, and sometimes the very star of the show. And what they'll do is they'll recast, right? They'll keep the character and have some other actor, maybe that will do it for less money, maybe has less is less difficult to work with. I don't know. I think folks that kind of are into like the stories behind the actors, and some actors are having more of a reputation of being difficult to work with. I have no idea if Gene Hackman was one of those. He might have been, and maybe the studio was like, "We're done with this guy. We're gonna get somebody else to do Popeye Doyle," and so they got Ed O'Neill to do the sequel. And as you can tell, that Ed O'Neill donned a pork pie hat. Now I'm looking at Ed O'Neill's pork pie hat in this still, and I'm like, okay, that is not the same pork pie hat that that Popeye Doyle in the original. So Gene Hackman's version of Popeye Doyle that he rocked in that movie. Namely, the you're missing that front crown, that front tip. So again, I really, really like, maybe one day I will go and sit down and try to do a little bit more research into why Ed O'Neill's pork pie hat looks like a standard pork pie hat. It looks, I don't know, it kind of looks like that same brown pork pie hat. Who knows? Maybe it's also a Dobbs. I don't think I've seen the French Connection 2. I just know that it exists and it didn't have Gene Hackman in it. But I could not tell you whether that's worth watching. I do know that the original French Connection is worth watching. If you are a some kind of cops and robbers movie buff, and it's that, especially if you are a hat buff and you really dig the pork pie. But yeah, from what I've seen is I think I watched the French Connection 2 only because I really dug the first one enough that I'd watch it, but I haven't done so yet. So if anybody knows if the French Connection 2 is any worthwhile watch, I do like Ed O'Neill. I watch it just because Ed O'Neill's in it. And look at this smile that he's rocking here. It's like, I mean, Ed O'Neill has that one of those like faces that when he smiles, like that devilish grin is something that definitely carried over into his Married with Children Al Bundy character. And like, how do you not like the guy, right? Like, it's something endearing about his face that, like, I don't know. He just has one. You can tell why people gravitate toward his characters, because he had that smile. And not necessarily a toothy smile, it's kind of a cheeky smile. Anyhow, the Popeye Doyle in both iterations, the French Connection with Gene Hackman, French Connection 2 with Ed O'Neill. I think there might have been another one. I think Ed O'Neill might have done a third one. I don't know because I haven't seen any of the sequels. So if you know, you can tell me. But I wanted to kind of close out this sharing famous pork pie wearers with probably the latest, and some say would be greatest wearer of the pork pie hat. And I think you know where I'm going with this. If you kind of are following the theme here, I'm going with Heisenberg, Walter White of Breaking Bad. Heisenberg. First of all, I love Breaking Bad. I love Breaking Bad, and I wholeheartedly recommend it if you haven't seen Breaking Bad. Not just for the hat, but the hat's like the icing on the cake. It's just a really well done series. And then what I will do is that if you go through and you binge watch Breaking Bad, I actually will recommend that you watch the one of the spin-offs called Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul, even though it doesn't have Walter in it, at least not a lot of Walter. I'm trying to remember if Walter made it into Better Call Saul. He should have, but I don't know if Bryan Cranston was managed to reprise his role for that. Doesn't matter. If you want pork pie hat goodness, definitely sink your teeth into Breaking Bad. I think it's kind of like the perfect gateway into the universe, the Breaking Bad universe. There's been movies done. I think El Camino. I don't recommend El Camino. It's just something you really have to love the series to like that movie. I love the series and I don't really like that movie. I thought it was really poorly done. I still watched it because I love the series so much, but I don't think it held up as much as Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So just a little extra tidbit about Better Call Saul. The reason why Better Call Saul really holds up for me is this idea of the sympathetic lawyer, right? The ambulance chaser, who's a guy like the iconic representation of somebody that was I'm going to quote, for lack of a better term, a scumbag lawyer that is sympathetic. Meaning, like, you learn about his backstory, about Saul's backstory, and you feel sorry for the guy. Like, you start like empathizing and rooting for the scumbag ambulance chasing lawyer because of everything that led up to him becoming a scumbag lawyer. And I try not to do too many spoilers. Again, I am somebody that somehow will spoil the show without even intending to. But I will leave it at that. Better Call Saul's character, Saul Goodman, and it's like the introduction is like, it's a made up name, like Saul Goodman. Like, he made it up because it's basically that. But Breaking Bad led to the spinoff of Saul Goodman, the story of Saul Goodman, his origin story. And holy cow, it was probably something that held up just as well, and for some people even more than Breaking Bad, only because there's less seasons and the quality is just really high. So shout out to fans of the Breaking Bad series, Better Call Saul series. Excuse me. But regardless, how we got here is that the pork pie hat had a revival with the series. I forget when the series came out, but it's a relatively modern series, no longer produced anymore. But Bryan Cranston as Walter White, aka Heisenberg, really brought the pork pie hat back into prominence in iconic status. And I couldn't do the show without giving a shout out to Heisenberg, Walter White, for reestablishing the pork pie hat back on the map. Again, the pork pie hat is something that is. Let me stop sharing my screen and see if I can get back in my ugly mug back into prominence. But yeah, for those viewers that kind of, I don't know if maybe they're new. Like, I guess my question for you guys is, what does a pork pie hat mean to you? Like, are you somebody that collects pork pie hats? Do you have any pork pie hats? Even if you don't collect them, like, as you're looking at my pork pie hat, is it something that you're like, could you see yourself collecting the pork pie hat? I know that when I first got into fine hats, I'm just going to say fine hats or felt hats. When I started getting into it, I don't think I thought immediately that I'd be like a collector of pork pie hats. And I still don't think I'm a collector of pork pie hats. I do when I see ones that I like. That I have two that I'm aware of, um, and this is probably my favorite. Like I said, I have another pork pie hat that I don't wear nearly as much. It's one of those hats that like I bought it on a whim because it was technically a pork pie hat. I think I might, if I keep it, I'll probably modify it. It has kind of a rope band instead of the traditional bow band here. Um, and this one is the one that like called out to me that said, "This is going to be one of my hats that I like." When I got this. I just knew it. And it's true. It held up. Like that dopamine shot that I got when I saw the hat and I'm like, I said, this is gonna make this, I'm gonna give this a new home. When I took this, when I got this hat, I knew I had just had that feeling that this was gonna be a hat that I love. And it held true. Like this is one of those hats that I'm like, when I haven't worn it in a while and I go out and wear it, I feel like wow, I can't believe I haven't worn you in so long because it's just a state of kind of having a collection and wanting to um just wanting to wear all your hats and cycle through your hats. Again, I have more great hats than I can wear at any given time. Um, and but I try to cycle through them, you know. And sometimes what will happen is once I wear the hat and I finally get around to wearing it, I'll start wearing it on several days in a row. Only because you're like, wow, you want to make up for the fact that you didn't wear the hat for so long, and you're like, almost that's an apology, right? I don't talk to my hats, I don't think, um, but I do sometimes like, and uh, what's the word? I don't know if the term is anthropomorphize, but I do tend to kind of like treat them as like they were living things, I guess. And that's, I don't know how sane that is, but I'm gonna hopefully somebody can confirm that it's actually normal. Um, but yeah, the pork pie hat. What else can I say about the pork pie hat? I think one thing I was talking about, I don't remember if I actually got around to communicating this, but the pork pie hat in the fine hat or felt hat community has a reputation of being a less formal hat, right? So right here on this stream, we've talked about like in my prior segments about the Hamburg, right? The Hamburg hat is a hat that has a lot more of a formal hat wear reputation um, than the pork pie hat, right? The pork pie hat is not somebody like not a hat that has a reputation, which is a very informal hat, and I like that because I think it kind of fits my personal style a lot better than the Hamburg, right? So usually, like if you've seen some of my past streams, you'll see that I'm wearing a Guayabera shirt. That's kind of an informal style. Right now, I have like a bowler shirt on. I do love bowler shirts. I don't have nearly as many bowler shirts than I do Guayabera styles, but it's also kind of one of those. I don't know. It's a cool look that I like. I think this bowler shirt pairs really well with the with this brown pork pie hat. It's kind of a beige shirt with a it's I don't know. I don't know if like I don't know what this color is. Cream shirt. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not like a Crayola box or anything, so I don't have my colors all right sometimes. But I feel like the beige or cream color goes really well with brown. At least to me, it does. And maybe if with this black, it pops a little bit. So that's kind of why I chose this particular outfit for today. So hopefully you like it. If you don't, doesn't matter. If you hate it, you can probably tell me and I'll be okay. But I actually went out for a walk on this and I felt good. I felt good. Had a good, nice half-hour walk this morning um, in my more informal pork pie hat. Again, I don't go to a lot of formal functions, so I don't really care. All I know is that you probably are not going to see a major leader I'm not saying you're not going to see it. Never say never, right? Um, but I don't think you've ever seen a formal, like somebody that runs a country wearing a pork pie hat. If you do, I'm going to be tickled. Like I'm going to start thinking about, wow, how progressive is that country that they elected a leader that wears a pork pie hat. But maybe that's what we need in this world, right? Maybe what we need is a world leader. Maybe in the U.S., maybe in the future we'll elect somebody that wears a hat. I don't think we've elected anybody that's wearing a hat since before the Kennedy administration. Um, so I don't recall ever seeing, like, I don't know. You guys can tell me. Has any of the presidents, U.S. presidents, after since Kennedy, worn a hat, at least regularly or at least iconically? I don't think so. I think FDR, Truman, and a lot of these other presidents prior are famous usually for wearing a Homburg, or before that, wearing a top hat. Right? Everybody knows about Lincoln's famous. I think it was a is it a steamboat? I think a steamboat top hat, the really tall top hats, and yeah, you just don't see it. Again, I think the presidents either drove or kind of were part of the transition away from wearing hats since Kennedy. And yeah, we haven't really had a hatted president since then. And obviously, everybody remembers Winston Churchill, with his iconic Hamburg. Yeah, I think the hat wearing world leader is they're just different. I mean, I think Fidel Castro famously wore the geez, I don't recall what the name of that hat style is. You had Che Guevara with the beret. There's been a lot of famous world leaders, political leaders that have famously worn hats. I probably can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but maybe in a future stream I can go into it. But back to the original theme of this is talking about the formality, the level of formality or informality of the pork pie hat. I think is very similar. It kind of coincides with the informality that is associated with the Panama hat, which I talked about in a different stream. The Panama hat, not unsurprisingly or surprisingly, depending on who's viewing this, is not from didn't originate in Panama. It originated in Ecuador. And I have one Panama style straw hat that's actually blue. That is a no-name hat. Maybe I'll wear it on stream one day. I wear it as another knockaround hat sometimes when I travel. So I bought that hat. That hat is pretty special to me only because it was that blue hat, that blue straw no-name hat, kind of probably kickstarted my fascination with hats. It really was the gateway for me to getting into fine hats. I picked that hat up when I started traveling, and I don't know, on a whim, I just said I want to wear a hat. So I bought it in Croatia, in Split, in the town of Split, which I recommend wholeheartedly. If you have not been to Croatia and you have not been to Split, Croatia, I wholeheartedly recommend it. It's where I probably started my hat journey, by buying a blue straw hat that I wore kind of Frank Sinatra style. I kind of wore it at the back of my head. One of these days, I'll share a photo, or I'll just put it on stream. And I wore it. It was kind of like a trilby shaped hat, and I wore it Frank Sinatra style, kind of at the back of my head, where so you see the front of my hair. It just felt like that's the way I should wear it. So that's how I started. I don't think I wear too many of my other fedoras like that. I think I have other hats that qualify as trilbies. And I think if I get my hands on a trilby that I really want to wear every day, I would probably wear it Frank Sinatra style. And if you guys don't know what that means, I mean, for me, one of Frank Sinatra, besides the hat tilt, right? So Frank Sinatra made the hat tilt really popular. I'm sure others have as well. But I just rewatched Robin and the Seven Hoods. So if you see my other stream, I'll just bring it back. So this photo, it's probably what inspired me to rewatch Robin and the Seven Hoods. So I'm trying to do this without getting some of the glare, but this still is from Robin and the Seven Hoods. And what it is a, it's just a hat tilt. So you can see that, you can't see Dean Martin's hat tilt. You can see the gentleman between Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra with a very, very prominent hat tilt. Obviously, you see Frank Sinatra with his hat tilted. And then you got Sammy Davis Jr. here on the far left, at least according to what I'm seeing on screen here, on the far left with a bowler hat, a black bowler hat that he has tilted as well. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Bing Crosby. For some reason I thought it was Fred Astaire that was in that movie. It's actually Bing Crosby, another famous crooner that had a role in Robin and the Seven Hoods. If you're a fan of movies, it's a good hat movie. Actually, it's a great hat movie. Robin and the Seven Hoods. If you want to get some really good high crown hat action, stream, try to download or get access to Robin and the Seven Hoods. I believe the movie's from the 50s. And it has a lot of the Rat Pack in it. So you have Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr. You also have, as a really one of the co-stars is Peter Falk. If you guys know or don't know who Peter Falk is, he plays Columbo. Kind of like Ed O'Neill, we saw the screenshot of Ed O'Neill. Before Columbo, Peter Falk actually had a starring role in Robin and the Seven Hoods, and had some really great high crown with a high point, gray and black classic hat style. And Sinatra had some really good, I think Dean Martin rocked a high crowned brown hat, and Sinatra wore like some really sharp looking green hat with a really high crown. And then of course, Sammy Davis Jr. with the bowler hat throughout, the black bowler. Some really great music in there, at least for me. You may think otherwise. I'm kind of a fan of Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr. as well, but not as much as Frank Sinatra say. But some really great songs in there, and one of those I think is Chicago. The other is I don't know the name, but it's A Hat's Not a Hat Till It's Tilted. Is the famous line from that, the chorus. And it's a kind of a trio between Dean Martin, Bing Crosby, and Frank Sinatra, where they kind of do like a song and dance number in the middle of the movie. It's a great song, and it's a great, I don't know about great movie. I think it's actually, when you think about it, it's probably a terrible movie by modern standard, but I kind of like it, and it really inspired me getting that still. When I saw that black and white photo, I think now that I think I've shown just about like the two, like shown the Rocky photo. One of these days I'll show the Michael Corleone flat hat. I have all black and white photos, and I think that's called noir. For those who are kind of into photography, I think it's called noir style, the black and white. And I think that's gonna be a theme, right? We talked about what theme one has with your hat collection and maybe your photos, if you are into collecting photos and having I think people just want to have nice things around them in their surroundings. So if you are somebody that is into kind of like decorations, if you have your hat collection and you have them serve as decorations in your surroundings, then you might have photos. For me, I have, besides my hats that I try to have, I'll resurrect my hat wall at some point, I think. Uh, and probably even before that, I'll resurrect the photos because I feel like they're some of the nice things that I like to have in my surroundings here, and this kind of like makeshift office that I have, that I want to have around me because I feel good when I see them. And so yeah, if that's something that you also have, if you have a hat wall, if you have a set of photos that really make like they're hat related, I'm curious to hear about it. Definitely share and drop a comment either on this live stream or later on after you finish watching this live stream because I'm interested in hearing about it. Sometimes, you kind of want to see like what are the commonalities that we have, as hat collectors and as hat connoisseurs. What are the kind of things you have surrounding you besides your general collection and what hats you have in your collection? How do you display your collection? And what kind of hat related content and hat related souvenirs and hat related things that you own, that just you own them for a reason. You have them because they make you feel good, and there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, what else? When we talked about Robin and the Seven Hoods, we talked about the pork pie hat of the day. Everything's kind of been pork pie related except for all the technical issues that we've been having here, right? It really has been kind of a weird start today, an auspicious start, but that's kind of what I should expect. If I don't expect it, I didn't expect to have technical difficulties on the stream. I did. I overcame them. I think that's kind of a metaphor for how we kind of should treat life in general. Um, yeah, even though I still have, like, I usually try to close this out when I have nobody on stream. But this is going to be one. I feel like I think I got a good segment going despite the oh, we just had somebody join us, and then okay, good, they left. Okay, good. Welcome. If you joined us, definitely drop a like on the video. If you like this content, despite the fact that you have to see me in front of your screen, and if you like the content, besides all the technical issues that I have had today, and I might have in the future, I don't know. I'm very new to this. But all I'm trying to do is create a forum here for me to communicate and create content with my fellow hat nerds. Um, and I'm trying to do this daily. I've been doing this daily. I'm going to keep trying to do it daily. No promises. I have a trip back home to New York City coming up. I don't think I'm going to be able to stream during that trip. So that'll be at least one weekend where you won't have hat chat. I don't think anybody. I think you guys are gonna manage to go on without me with your day. It'd be nice if you guys miss me, but hopefully I'll have some kind of great story. I'll be there seeing family, and I'm really that's another thing that if you care to know about me, I'm very, despite the fact that I live a good 5 hours away from family, I am very family oriented. I have my mom and dad that are still with me today, and I'm very thankful about that. So every time I got my family's kind of spread between, I got family in New York and New Jersey, as well as Florida. And I have other families scattered out, thereabouts, but primarily in the New York, New Jersey area, and we try to go visit as often as we can. Never nearly as much as I want to, but I try to, especially if I get an invite to like a function, So with that, I did get an invite to a family function to go out to a barbecue, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have my hat in tow. I'm gonna try to get my visit my parents in New York City, and then get together with my dad. My dad is not a hat nerd per se, but I did gift him a bowler hat, a modern Kappas bowler that Kevin Gerber sells Kappas hats. They're actually based Kappas headwear. Shout out to them. They're in Queens, New York, and Long Island City, if you are familiar with the New York City area. And I had a good fortune of actually calling them to kind of inquire about their hat stock. And I think the guy's name was Robert. So Robert at Kappa's, hopefully I didn't butcher that. I'm only going off of memory. This is well over a year ago. Very, very nice to deal with. Kevin, I know, sells Kappa's headwear and has actually visited their factory or storefront in Long Island City. Kevin's also in Queens, New York. So shout out to Kevin, shout out to Kappa's headwear, and definitely give both of their websites. I think they both now have websites. KTG Hats and Kappa's both have they both sell fine hats, modern fine hats. Kevin's hats are produced by McGill over in Canada. Kappa's, I believe, either makes their own hats or sources them. I think they sell Panama hats as well as generally in terms of like the fine hats. They are wool, 100% wool, but by all means, very nice hats and very reasonably priced to add. So I'm not endorsed by any of those folks. They make. I think they are ambassadors for the community, and I think we should give them, big them up and shout them out any single time we encounter them, because I think they're really good for the community, as well as is a lot of folks that I can't name on this stream. One thing is I have done invites. So I invited Kevin to come on here. He said he would. If he's a busy guy, I know. But I really want to try to get some other talking head besides me to converse with on here. Morgan, you've been like a kind of a regular viewer now. If you ever want to come on screen, I'm more than welcome you. That goes for any of the other hat nerds that have come on here. DCA 321, you were kind of the first to kick this off. You're always welcome to come on here. If you don't want to be on screen, you're always welcome to comment, and you don't have to stay the entire stream. Nobody's obligated to stay the entire stream. Again, sometimes I don't want to stay in the entire stream. I only go on here and talk as long as my caffeination levels allow me to do so. And I think we had M Cox 4700 come on here. And M Cox, you also were great to have on here, and you're welcome anytime. Like I said, you're welcome. Anybody that is on my Facebook groups that I post on, or on the Fedora Lounge, again, can't shout out the Fedora Lounge enough. You guys, you regulars, I think I mentioned Blair's screen name. I believe your name is Joe. Joe, and who posts under the screen name Blair, as well as just a lot of other folks that just have a ridiculous. Stuart, I believe your name is Stefan. Stefan, I believe he lives in Verona, Italy, and you have a tremendous collection. You are probably one of the major ambassadors, Joe, Stefan, and a bunch of other folks that I'm not recalling right now. If you're watching this, big shout out. I think the Last Cowboy or the Lost Cowboy, Nathan, I believe your name is. Just some of the guys that I can recall off the top of my head, and I'm missing a whole bunch. You'll find them if you guys haven't. If you're coming here from Facebook and you're not familiar with the Fedora Lounge, again, I'm not endorsed by the Fedora Lounge. None of this is sanctioned by the Fedora Lounge. Become a member. If you want to see hat content besides mine, and just in the traditional forum, right? So outside of Facebook, on a website, I invite you to join the Fedora Lounge. I don't know what Fedora Loungers are called. Maybe they're called Fedora Loungers. Maybe they're Fedora Lounge Lizards. I don't know. I don't know what the term is, or that you call us. I don't know. I kind of like Fedora Lounge Lizard now that I'm kind of saying it. Maybe that's what we call. Maybe that's what if we don't call ourselves Fedora Lounge Lizards, we should probably start that. But either way, I call you guys my fellow hat nerds, regardless of whether you like that or not. I think it's not. I think now in 2025, it's kind of cool to be called any kind of nerd. Probably in the 80s, nerd had a negative connotation when I grew up. Like when I was growing up and I was in grade school, nobody wanted to be like. Even the nerds didn't want to be called nerds. Like it was almost like derogatory. But luckily, the terminology has kind of evolved, and now kind of people wear it as a badge of honor. In the Linux community, you got the Linux cast. Shout out to the Linux cast. And you have, I forget your name, but the Linux cast, if you guys are into Linux like I am, this gentleman has merch, and he has a hat that says Linux nerd, and it's because I think the reason why he has his merch is because people would buy that, because now it's cool to be a nerd. And Yeah, so my fellow hat nerds, no derogatoriness behind that. It's just people that really geek out over fine hats like I do, and probably even more so. So anyhow, I'm a little bit over an hour and 20 minutes into this stream. I think this is a good place to wrap this up. To wrap up Hat Chat. I believe this is Hat Chat number 9. Uh, uh, it's like I said, it's like kind of like Mambo number 5, or Love Potion number 9, right? If anybody really likes, I like that song a lot. So kind of like Love Potion number 9. This is wrapping up Hat Chat number 9. And until the next one, hopefully tomorrow, if I get back from my walk nice and safe and sound, I can join you guys tomorrow. If not, whenever the next Hat Chat happens to be. Until then, this is Luke signing off for Hat Chat number 9. And what I'll leave you with is stay hatting. Thank you and have a great day. Ciao.